This is what my mother told me. That day, our whole family returned to my grandmother's house. It was in a rural part of Okinawa, famous for Arakaki Beach. I had been to Taiwan before, and the buildings there reminded me a lot of some of the more remote coastal villages in Taiwan. Because it was such a small village, there were few people around. During the day, the seaside was truly beautiful, many lovely coral rocks and soft white sands. But at night, the beach was desolate, except for the sound of the waves crashing. We had come from Tokyo to spend 5 days at my grandmother's place. While my mother and I walked along the beach, she seemed very happy. She told me she had grown up on this very land, and the sea's resources had provided for her family. But she added that the beach held too many memories, and she had seen many incredible things here. One incident, in particular, was still vivid in her mind to this day. She explained that when she was young, times were very poor. There was no natural gas or propane. Everyone cooked with firewood. So at low tide in the early morning hours, she had to go to the beach to collect driftwood to save for cooking fuel. Sometimes it was near dawn. Other times, it was still pitch dark. Being the oldest sibling, that responsibility fell on her. So, often alone in the early morning or late at night, she would roam the beach gathering driftwood. That day was unbelievably clear. No clouds in the sky. The moon was bright, casting silver light over everything, with visibility so clear that she could see far out. She arrived on the beach alone. Usually, she'd walk out toward the middle of the beach, picking out good pieces of driftwood along the way and setting them closer to shore for carrying back later. Near the middle of the beach by the shoreline, there used to be a small shrine, but as times changed, it had been moved into town to watch over the townsfolk. My mother said the shrine originally guarded this stretch of sea. She usually went up to the sand in front of the shrine, then turned back and collected the driftwood she had chosen, carrying it home. That day, she was doing the same, roaming the empty beach, selecting driftwood. When she got to the sand in front of the shrine and was about to head back, she looked behind and saw someone coming from afar walking along the beach, picking up driftwood too. She thought it was another villager, but the person's movements seemed strange. From afar, she saw the figure limping, grabbing driftwood and stuffing it under their arm. The creepiest thing was that this figure seemed to be growing taller and taller, their arms and legs stretching out longer and longer. She thought, who in the village could be following her, picking up the driftwood she had already selected? She called out, "Hey, who's that? Don't take the wood I picked." The dark figure seemed to hear her voice. After shoving the last piece of driftwood under their arm, they stopped moving and just stood there at a distance. My mother shouted again, "Is that Mr. Rewind?" Mr. Rewind was the lonely uncle next door. He often came to this beach alone at night to collect driftwood too. After she said that, the figure waved at her from afar and began to walk over slowly. She thought, that's probably Mr. Rewind. But something felt off. Mr. Rewind was that tall, and this figure's arms and legs looked strangely long. Though uncomfortable, she waved back. The figure kept coming closer and closer. When it was about 50 meters away, my mother saw it clearly, and she said it was terrifying. It wasn't human. She saw a strange creature made up of all kinds of wooden branches. Its entire body, arms, legs, torso was a twisting construction of sticks and driftwood, creaking and clacking with each step. Only its head was not wood. It had a human head, but my mother couldn't tell if it was male or female. The short hair was dripping wet. Its eyes were covered, hidden beneath strands of hair, and it seemed to wear a smile. The creature kept walking toward her, waving continuously as it came closer. It was clearly not human. My mother was scared. She said she was so frightened she bolted toward the shrine. As she ran, she heard the creature rushing after her. She dared not look back, but could hear the heavy crashing thuds of wood striking wood creeping closer and closer. My mother ran through the Torii gate and hid in the bushes nearby. Her body was scratched by the sharp grass, but she dared not move for fear of being discovered. Hiding in the thicket, she watched the creature from afar. She saw it come to the gate of the shrine and stand still. Then, after a few seconds, suddenly the entire of the shrine and stand still. Then, after a few seconds, suddenly the entire body fell apart, just a pile of wood scattered across the beach. And then, there, she saw something round drop to the ground. My mother said it should have been the head, but that head seemed to have a life of its own. It rolled toward the sea, right into the waves, and disappeared. My mother said she was too scared to move at that moment, so she hid in the nearby grass. Too frightened to come out, she stayed there until dawn, when the light slowly returned. Then she got out from the grass and walked to the Torii gate's entrance. She saw a heap of driftwood scattered all over the place. Since the driftwood was good material, she planned to collect it and bring it home for firewood. But my mother said some of the driftwood was still damp, and those wet pieces gave off a strange, rotten smell. When she looked closer, she saw residue on the wood, like decayed flesh and seaweed clinging to it. After that, she didn't dare go to the beach at midnight anymore. She only went near the early morning, when the sky was just brightening. My mother said, to this day, she still doesn't know what that thing really was. If you recklessly expand a cemetery, maybe people will be taken away. This is something that happened in my old mountain village. It might not sound terribly scary, but I found it pretty mysterious. My family's old home is in the countryside, tucked into the hills. Near my grandmother's place lived a family known for their love of showing off, especially the matriarch, the Kura to grandmother. She was super proud and always boasted to neighbors about how successful her sons and grandsons were. Because of that, most people nearby didn't much like the Kura to grandmother. One day, she came over to chat with my grandma and said, our family is noble and prominent, so we want to build a grander tomb. The cemetery should be bigger, more spacious, and the gravestones more beautiful. I guess that's pretty common everywhere, but in our village, there's a saying, the bigger the cemetery, the more empty spots there are and that family members will be taken away. My grandmother warned the Kura to grandmother about this. She advised her not to expand the graveyard recklessly, but the proud Kura to grandmother didn't care. She thought my grandma was just jealous of their family. To get more information, she also talked to the temple priest wife. Of course, the priest wife was against it too, but since the temple was also a business, she said, if you insist on expanding your burial ground, you could just buy some land and do it. In the end, that family doubled the size of their graveyard. They made their gravestones more impressive, and it became the largest family tomb in the temple. The stone was plain in color, but the carvings were elaborate, perhaps a bit excessive. Because the cemetery got bigger, some of the paths between graves were squeezed to less than half their original width. The relatives of those buried nearby were unhappy, but the boastful Kura to grandmother showed off her new cemetery everywhere she went. Once, when she came to brag to my grandma warned her kindly, be careful, don't get taken. Maybe other people warned her too, but the proud Kura to grandmother grew annoyed and stopped talking about the cemetery so much. Then, a month later, tragedy struck. The Kura to grandmother had 3 elementary school grandsons, an older boy and twin brothers. The older twin, Yaj-in, died by falling off a cliff. It happened at an unguarded cliffside clearing where the kids were playing. Because they were old neighbors, I attended the funeral, while the grown me-stups handled the ceremonies. My sister and I took care of the neighborhood children. That day, a girl who had been playing with Yaj-in said he jumped off by himself. She said Yaj-in told her the rocks below were beautiful, and he wanted to bring some stones to grandma. Then he jumped. I thought about it, that cliff was about 30 meters high. You can't even see the rocks clearly from that height. But Yajin said he jumped for Grandma. It was strange. Still, kids say strange things sometimes, so it wasn't very reliable. After that, rumors spread around the village he was taken away because the ambition was too great. A month later, the Kurata family grandfather died in a traffic accident. Apparently, he was drunk, crossing a street to buy more alcohol, ran a red light, and got hit by a car. The unsettling coincidences only deepened the strange feeling about that family's big cemetery expansion. Around that time, people nearby started saying that because they had overstretched their ambitions, the family members were taken away. The vain Kurata grandmother couldn't bear it mentally, and she broke down completely. After that, she stopped leaving the house altogether. 3 months after the old Kurata grandfather passed away, the grandmother was hospitalized after being diagnosed with colon cancer. When my grandmother went to visit her, the Kurata grandmother said, "They're going to take me too. Because I expanded the ambition. Why didn't the temple abbot stop me back then?" I had the feeling that, at that moment, the Kurata grandmother was speaking to my grandmother through some kind of spiritual channel. 2 weeks later, the Kurata grandmother passed away. After that, rumors spread around that the whole family was cursed. But about 5 years went by, and no one in their family suddenly died anymore. My grandmother spoke with the abbot's wife at the temple and said, maybe the spacious tomb underneath was already full. It might have just been coincidence. But to see an old ledge and happening right nearby, that was really frightening for me. This is something I experienced myself last autumn. Though it was autumn, the summer heat still lingered. On those heavy, stifling nights, I had trouble sleeping. So, I started looking for ways to help myself fall asleep. Eventually, I developed the habit of listening to soundtracks before bed. Things like the sound of waves or rain. What I liked most was the drip-meous dropping of water hitting the floor, plip-plop. Plip-plop. You might find it strange, but those sounds helped me sleep. So listening to recordings like that became my nightly ritual. Most of the time, I would drift off halfway through listening. That night, I was lying there listening, and slowly, I fell asleep. I woke up suddenly at some unknown hour, facing the wall. I thought to myself, I woke up at such a strange hour. What a pain. I decided to listen to a different sound recording to help me sleep again. As I reached back to grab my phone, a strange sound came from behind me, dripping noise, like a wet woman with her head bowed, water falling from her hair onto the floor. Drip drop, drip drop. My instinct told me not to turn around, so I kept my eyes tightly shut. Almost instantly, I fell asleep again for no reason. The next morning, I checked where the sound had come from. The floor was completely dry. Nothing unusual. Nothing strange happened that day either. But a few days later, it happened again. That night, after falling asleep, I woke in the middle of the night for no reason. The moment I opened my eyes, I felt uneasy. As I looked around the dark, silent room, a wave of fear crept in. Then suddenly by the door I saw a black shadow shaped like a person. I thought, what is that? And in that instant, my fear peaked. My body froze entirely. I had no strength at all. I tried to move, but couldn't. The only thing I could move was my eyes. As I blinked, the shadow became clear. It was a woman with long hair. Thinking I must be imagining things, I blinked again. When I opened my eyes, she was suddenly right beside my bed. I blinked once more, and her face was pressed close. I thought, this is bad. This is really bad. I shut my eyes tightly and silently repeated, I'm sorry. Please don't scare me. I was wrong. Just then, my phone suddenly played a sound recording water dripping on the floor. At that moment, strength returned to my body. I jolted upright and the long minus-haired black woman was gone. One summer, at a university seminar, a group of us from outside the prefecture decided to go camping. The spot was on a remote island, not far from Okin Island. After we took a small ferry to the port, a light bus was waiting to take us. There was no official road between the port and the village where the campsite was, so very few vehicles passed through. When we reached the campsite and loaded our luggage, we told the people in a small cabin that we'd booked a campsite. The middle-aged man smiled and said he had a tent we could rent, along with a barbecue set, plus some fuel, wood and other tools. The toilet and shower were behind the cabin, he said, where a water tap was set up. We could get water there. Then, the man pointed with his finger toward the woods and said, "There's a clearing over there." The man said, pointing ahead, "Just keep going straight. You can pitch your tents wherever you like." I looked where he was pointing and saw an unpaved dirt path. It was so dark and dense inside that section, it felt like a proper forest. Our group started toward the campsite. The narrow path was barely wide enough for one person. We walked on for quite a while. I began to wonder, was there really a campsite ahead? If we kept dawdling like this, we wouldn't have any time left to enjoy ourselves. So one by one, we started running down the path, passing through the trees. It was like a tunnel leading from shadow into sunlight. And when we burst out on the other side, everyone cheered aloud. Unexpectedly, the area opened wide, a vast stretch of whites, and rolled far away, meeting the sparkling blue sea glistening under the sun. This was a scene even Okinawa itself couldn't boast. While the boys set up tents and prepared camp, the girls changed into swimsuits and plunged into the water, laughing and splashing. Afterward, we ate, drank, and sang loudly, filling the night air with our voices. The sun dipped low, and only one lantern and a crackling bonfire lit our faces on the beach. Suddenly, a senior called me over. "Hey, Enichikawa, I need to go to the bathroom, but I'm scared. Can you come with me?" During the day, running back and forth between the cabin and odd area to fetch water and cook didn't seem scary. But now, under a pitch-black sky with no path lights, I imagined how frightening a narrow trail through the forest would be, especially for a girl. So I took the lantern, and she and I headed down the dark forest path. The trail was so narrow we couldn't walk side by side. I stayed in front. She followed close behind, touching my shirt tightly, probably scared. Then she suddenly rushed forward, pushing me from behind. "Hey, senpai. That's dangerous," I called, but she didn't answer. Without warning, she sprinted past me. I wondered what was going on. Had she lost control? I hurried after her, worried she might trip in the darkness. But she ran so fast I couldn't catch up. Eventually, I found her crouching in front of the cabin. From a distance, I thought she probably just didn't make it in time, but something felt off. Under the lone lamp's glow, I called to her, "Senpai, are you okay?" Her shoulders trembled as if she were crying. "Didn't you see it?" she whispered. "See what?" I asked, puzzled. She looked back at me in a way I had never seen before, her face pale, sweat pouring down. "Amichikawa, didn't you see it?" she asked again. I pressed her. "What is it?" "Not here," she said. "I have to get this done first." Shaking, she stood, then entered the bathroom behind the cabin. When she finished, we prepared to leave, but she insisted she wouldn't walk back the same way. So we circled around, looking for another path to the beach. When we finally arrived and started walking back along the whites and toward our tents, she began to tell me what had happened. She said, "The path was lined with trees, right? But out of the corner of my eye, some looked different. I hold cluster. Actually," I swallowed hard, sweating. She went on. "At first, I thought it was just trees too dark to tell, but once my eyes adjusted, I saw that by distant light they weren't trees at all. It was a group of old people in white kimonos, standing silently, watching us from both sides. She broke down crying. I gently brought her back to our friends, unwrapped her in a blanket. We comforted her until she fell asleep. Later, my friends and I had one more drink. By the time I came to, dawn was breaking. I was lying alongside the dead bonfire, wrapped in a quilt. The sun had climbed high. We hurried to pack up our tents and gear. I breathed a sigh of relief. Senpai seemed to have regained her spirit. As I returned the borrowed equipment, the man came out from the cabin. He greeted me. "Did you enjoy your camping?" "Yes," I said. "This place is amazing. We had such a great time." "Though?" The man asked. "What is it?" Curious, I decided to ask him directly. I said, "Isn't there something in those woods over there?" The uncle looked at me with a knowing smile and asked, "You didn't wander into the forest, did you?" He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I should have told you earlier, but people don't like to hear about these things. On both sides of this little road, the trees you see, that's the village cemetery. The campground was built later, because we couldn't cut through the graves. This path was carved out to go around them." Hearing him say this sent a chill through me. I couldn't hide my unease, and I guess the uncle noticed, though his smile didn't falter. "Now, at this time of year, here is what you call OB on the season when ancestors come back," he said quietly. "That's why the campground should normally be a place of rest." I got the timing wrong, he added with a wry laugh. Only then did it dawn on me besides us, no other visitors had come here. The uncle looked at me, beaming openly. Then suddenly, I felt a gaze on me. I turned around and saw my senior standing there, her face a grim mask, watching us quietly. -1 night, around midnight. I had just finished my bath and lay in bed scrolling through my phone. Because the screen reflected my face, I glanced closely at a pimple on my left cheek and grumbled to myself, why now?" I used the phone's light to inspect the blemish and absently poked at it. Just then, a message from my boyfriend lit up the screen. We started chatting about the day's events. Suddenly, the screen went completely black and almost immediately, it lit back up again. I thought, this phone's pretty old. Maybe it's glitching. I didn't worry much and kept texting. Then, again, the screen blinked off in an instant, then back on. The flickering annoyed me. I told my boyfriend about the weird phone behavior. I was in the middle of typing